Can you hear me in the back row without a microphone? I prefer not to use a microphone, but if you can't understand what I'm saying, I will of course pick it up. After all, you are my users, so I need to serve you. That's about me. A few words. It says Denmark on my passport. I was born and raised and work in Denmark. I teach HCI at the University of Copenhagen. I've done a lot of things in my life. Most importantly is that I've run something that's called the Comparative Usability Evaluation Studies from 1998 until now. I'll get back to what these studies are because they are important to understand what it is that I want to share with you tonight. And then I'm passionate about certification. And I want to say a few words about that. So we all know that you need to be UX certified because that will bring you fame and wealth and honor. Yeah, it's good that you're laughing because, of course, that's nonsense. We all know that's not true. The next one, certification makes you an UX expert in a week. That's equally rubbish. But here's some truth, proof of eventually having had something to do with the topic. Now we're almost over the other side of the road. But I think it's important with certification to answer the question, am I doing it right? Some of the people that I know are loners. They're working alone, the only UX person in their company. And they have no one to lean on when they get in doubt, am I doing it the right way? Certification can tell you what's generally internationally recognized. It also helps us establish a common language. Doctors have established common language quite a while ago. And of course, we share the meaning of many of the words that we're using. But you'd be surprised at some of the interpretations that I've heard of a usability test. Just incidentally, I know we have a very clever and complicated voting system, but I forgot to put this one on the slide. Can I just see a show of hands from those of you who have no idea what a usability test is? Okay, 2 people. Good. How many of you have conducted usability tests? I mean, moderated usability tests. I would say it's about half of the audience. Thank you very much. Good. So the certification system that I'm working for, and which Bunnyfoot and a few other good companies are working on, is called CPUX, which means Certified Professional for User Experience. When I'm supposed to describe it in an elevator talk, I say it's based on international standards. We offer training by a number of independent training providers, but you don't have to pay for training. Everything is available on the web. You can read it yourself. I'm going to give you the URL a little bit later on. We have certification by an independent party. It's transparent. Everything is freely available, except for the training. And it's internationally recognized in Europe, in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Denmark, and in the UK. Here's what we have at the moment, the foundation level, which essentially enables you to speak usability. I would say most of you are probably overqualified for CPUX-F, for the foundation level. You know most of this already. But CPUX-F is the point of departure for the more advanced ones, user requirements engineering, usability testing and evaluation, and one that's a little bit a dream of the future, CPUX design, interaction specification, information architecture, and prototyping. That will come in a year or 2, and we've been saying that for the past 3 years. So I'd really like you to work to actively try your skills on some of the certification test questions that we have. And that's why we've given all of you this handout. So on the back side of this handout, you can find 6 questions about usability testing. They're actually taken from our usability testing exam. They're all multiple choice questions. So try your skills at them. And if you want, we have instructions for what you should do if you want to win fabulous prizes. £50, imagine that. We have three prizes at £50, and we give them, it's not just luck, it's not just Lady Luck who decides who will get these prizes. We award them for the best and first correct answers that we get. Right, this is what it looks like. You've all got it in real color in front of you. Just send it to me today, tomorrow. But remember, the first one who has the right answer gets a, well, yeah, the first one who has the right answer gets a prize and bragging rights. So answer the 6 multiple choice questions, send your answers to quiz@molich.dk. This address is also on the handout. The 3 best and first answers in each category win. And that means that there's another category. We haven't had any entries to that one yet. Answer the 40 multiple choice CPUX UT public test questions on this website. That's where all our certification information is, to have a chance of winning not just £50, but £100. Woo! It's going to take you a little time. That part is actually supposed to take about 90 minutes. So set aside some time for it, and if you say that you're too busy, you don't have time for that, fine. Good. And this is a little bit more. We like to stress that all our materials are freely available. If you want to take courses, you can take them from Bunnyfoot or from another company who's not sponsoring tonight's event, so I'm not mentioning them.
Achieve a vision if you're in Edinburgh.
Oh! Who said that?
I said it.
You said, well, you are entitled to say that. You're the only person here who's entitled to say that. And here again is the URL of the User Experience Qualification Board. Of course, a company or an organization that deals with usability could not be called anything else than UXQB. Wow. Yeah, okay. Let me get to today's topic. I'm not just come here, traveled all the way to make a little propaganda for our certification system, even though I strongly believe in it. Right, but before I start with the myths that I want to share with you, I have a few things that I want to set straight. Over the years, and I've been in this field for about 30 years, I have developed a number of credos, a number of basic, fundamental things that I don't really want to discuss. They're just basic beliefs. And here's the first one. Usability professionals must set a good example by making usable stuff. We must make sure, whenever we make presentations, that they're usable. When we organize events, the events must be usable. When we write usability test reports, they must be usable. Here's an example. It's not always so easy. Here's an example from one of the studies. Again, these CUE studies keep popping up. I did a study that was called CUE 6 about 10 years ago. And here is one of these, here's one of the problem reports that this report contained. And the findings were in fact excellent. This was a screenshot from a website called enterprise.com, a car rental company. And then there were a number of call-outs. And like I said, each of these comments were good, but the description was not particularly usable. It was a little bit overwhelming. And not just that, but they used this team, which is anonymous of course, used some clever color codes and some letter codes, which I'm not totally sure that I understand, but of course they had an explanation on a separate page. I don't really think that should be necessary in a usability test report. So this is one of the things that I mean when I talk about our products should be usable. And you could say that happened 10 years ago. But just half a year ago, one of my clients showed me a usability test report that someone else had made for them and said, Rolf, what do you think of this usability test report? And I said, it was 400 pages and there was no table of contents. It was impossible or very difficult to navigate. But they had been paid a lot for the study, and they felt that when they had been paid £30,000 to do that study, they must deliver a thick report. In my view, a usability test report has to have about 25 pages, irrespective of the size of the study. You might have additional appendices, that's fine. But the overview document must be about 25 pages at most, otherwise it's unusable. And the second credo, I have a few more, but I don't want to, they're not particularly relevant for tonight's talk. The second credo is that data trumps opinion. We all have opinions, but I have brought a little data, and that's what I want to share with you now. These are the CUE studies. CUE means comparative usability evaluation. And the recipe for comparative usability evaluation is that I assemble 10 to 35 professional teams, people who work professionally in usability evaluation. And independently and simultaneously, they get the task to evaluate a website. Most often they do it by usability testing, but some of the teams preferred other methods like heuristic inspection or expert review or whatever. They do this independently, and at the end they write a report, and this report is anonymous. They send in the report. One of the things that we learned from this study was that 60% of the total number of problems, and you can see here in CUE4, all teams together, there were about 15 teams in CUE4, the 15 teams reported more than 300 issues. So, and 60% of these issues, 180 in this case, roughly speaking, were uniquely reported. They were just reported by one team. And that team did not make a mistake. The problem sounded reasonable. So one of the things we learned from this is that if you start testing a modern, complex product thoroughly, you are going to find lots and lots of usability problems. So never tell a client or your colleagues that you have found all usability problems. Because we know for sure that even with these 300 issues, we had not found all problems. We don't know how many there are. Clever people have tried to set up a model for this, trying to figure out how many problems there were in total, and as far as I know, they've all failed. Here's another study, CUE9, which was slightly different. In this case, we videotaped 5 usability test sessions. So we had 5 videos of 20 to 30 minutes in length. We showed them to 35 different professionals or professional teams. And the teams all saw the same thing. And still their conclusions, their findings were different. Right. An important part of a usable presentation is audience interaction. So I assume that you all brought your smartphone or tablet or whatever. So please now, before I show the next slide, go to this website, shakeq.com, and when it prompts you, enter this code, KU835. All right, so here's the first question, and it should pop up on your smartphone within a few seconds. And it's a statement: 5 users are enough to catch 85% of the usability problems in practically any product. Now, what I want you to do is to position yourself to this statement, whether you agree, whether you both agree and disagree, or whether you disagree with it.
Rolf, could you just put the URL back on?
Shake Q, like Shakespeare, but with a Q instead of the spear. All right, I'll move back. Here it is, shakeq.com. And then KU835. Actually, it also appears here, but I do admit that it's in a relatively small type. So it seems that at least some people are getting through. You can follow down here the number of people who have voted. Right. So that's the conclusion. The green one, I have the liberty of choosing the colors of these columns. So I decided that this is the answer that I prefer, so I colored that green. Does anyone know, and this is not a quiz question, but does anyone know who said this originally? Who said this? Nielsen. Jacob Nielsen said that. And I must say, to his defense, he said it about 15 years ago. I don't think he is of this opinion anymore. But he actually substantiated it with a curve and a nice-looking formula. And if you take this very, very smooth curve and you go up here with 5 users, you find that it's true. 5 users will find 85% of the problems. The point is, this curve, except for this point here, 0 users will find 0% of the problems. That's probably true. But apart from that, this is wrong, at least for modern complex products. I participated in gathering some of the data that led Jacob to write this article back in 1993, 1994, but I certainly don't support his conclusions. It's much more complicated, like we demonstrated painstakingly with the CUE studies, where we had many teams who tested the websites and they just kept finding problems and problems and problems. And no one found more than 10 to 15% of the total number of problems. Here's a much better statement. 5 users are enough to drive a useful iterative cycle. Once you have tested with 5 users, go back, correct the problems, test again, and so on and so forth, until the system meets a certain threshold. You cannot find all problems. Here's the next one. The main goal of a usability test is to discover usability problems. What do you think of that one? All right, let's take a closer look at this one. Now, those of you who agree, they're okay, but what else could be the reason for running a usability test? What other goals could we have with a usability test?
Find out what you're getting right.
Find out what you're getting right, okay, yes. We'll get back to that, by the way, a little bit later. But that's a reasonable answer. Anyone else?
See if you're at least achieving a goal. See if you're achieving a goal.
See if you are achieving a goal, okay? Now that's another thing that I want to come after. Let me just show you this one here. Here, this is the boss. So what's the boss saying? I want a carousel on the home page. Anyone ever met a boss who said something like that? Show of hands, yeah. Yes, we have that, and every time that happens, we make a deep sigh. And do you know what this is called? Because there's a name for a boss like that. Don't ever tell him, but there's a name. It's a hippo, the highest paid person's opinion. But don't ever tell your boss that he's a hippo, because I don't think he'll be amused. Okay, to be serious, here again is an anonymous quote from someone who's skeptical towards usability. I know what my users need. I asked my sister. Now, that is another reason why usability testing is so important. It's to convince people that perhaps it's not enough to ask their sister. It's to convince people that maybe the boss is not always right when he's saying we need a carousel on the home page. So usability testing is very important as a political instrument to show people in a very convincing way there are problems in our product and there are ways to fix these problems. And that's essentially what this slide here says. Right, so here's the next one, number 3. Expert usability reviews provide results that are as reliable as those from usability tests. Right, let's take a look at this one. I always find that I'm in the minority on this one. Just 7% seem to agree with me. It is a common myth that expert reviews are less valuable than usability tests. Some people call usability tests the gold standard of usability evaluation. The point is that our data from CUE studies show that expert usability reviews find as many problems as usability testing. And perhaps I should add, that's probably a mistake on the slide, it finds as many serious problems as usability testing does. Sure, expert reviews overlook some problems, but so do usability tests. Usability testing is not perfect. You're limited by the tasks that you give to the user during a usability test. And it also turns out expert usability reviews are actually cheaper than usability tests. Not a whole lot cheaper, but they are cheaper. Now, very importantly, these findings apply only when these expert usability reviews are carried out by experts. And by an expert, my definition, that's not generally recognized, I know that, an expert to me is someone who is recognized by his peers as being an expert, by independent peers, not by his colleagues, not by his sister. But there's one important backside to expert reviews. They're political dynamite in organizations that are not mature. Because inevitably, in immature organizations, they can lead to this nasty question: why are your opinions better than mine? And I never found a good answer to that one. For some years, I tried to say, my opinions are better than yours because I've got a picture of Jacob Nielsen hanging in the wall of my office. And he's looking down at me constantly whenever I do these expert reviews. But somehow that did not convince people. Right, so next one, number 4. At least 25% of the comments in a usability test report should be positive. Oh, that's bad. Not very many people agree with me on that one. So perhaps, John raised his hand. Good, John. John can, okay. Does anyone from this minority want to tell us why are positive comments important? Because nothing needs to be corrected from them. So aren't they just a waste of space in the usability test report? And I told you just a moment ago that a usable usability test report has got to be short. Well, there was a gentleman there in the back. Yes, please.
It means they'll actually take your report seriously if you've told them at least a few good things.
Yes,
They don't
very,
go away completely miserable.
very good. Yes, you couldn't be a total idiot because that would mean that even your positive comments were worthless. No, and Mary Poppins put it very nicely this way: with a spoonful of sugar, the medicine goes down. There's another reason. What is that? Well, at least one more reason. Yes, madam?
Well, if they're going to make some changes based on your recommendations, you don't want to change the things that are currently working.
Very good. Yes, the second reason is it would be a disaster if they took some of the good things, some of the things that users really liked, out of the system just because no one had bothered to tell them users actually appreciated that. Or we could see that users had no problems, for instance, checking out or finding the insurance conditions or whatever it might be. Thank you. Yes. Okay, we've had that. And here's a picture of Mary Poppins. I think that speaks for itself. Remember, even developers have feelings. If you don't have very many positive usability findings in your reports, you're not alone. Here's from the latest study we did, the CUE9 study, and here are all the 3, 6, 9, 12, 16 reports lined up, the first 16 reports we did. We did more later on. And here you can see the number of positive findings from each of these reports. And I've also indicated that as a percentage. So only 2 of the reports actually met my standard. And I think one of them was my own report, because I participated actively in that study. I was just so curious to see how this video study, this comparative video study, where everyone saw the same video, how that would go along. So I just couldn't resist that. Right, so number 5, the moderator should say as little as possible while the participant is working with the test tasks. Ah, good. I'm glad to see that for once I'm with the majority. Why is it so terribly important that a moderator shuts up during the test? Well, that is because it's the essence of a usability test. I have this here. The hallmark of usability tests, results from a usability test, are unique in one aspect. They show what representative users are able to accomplish on their own with the product. The moment the moderator starts talking, it turns into a different method, which has other positive aspects. It's just not usability testing. So whenever someone, and that happens quite often, whenever one of my test participants start praising the system, I always tell them, thank you very much, but please show me. Please show me, don't tell me. That's the essence, the hallmark of usability testing. There's actually a name for this. It's called relaxed think aloud, when the moderator starts talking too much. It's very tempting, and everyone is having a good time, except for grumpy people like me who like to complain about orthodox and pure methodologies. Next one, if you found 60 serious problems, it's okay to report them all in the usability test report. Oops, I think I made a serious mistake in this one. because that's, well, the figures here are of course right, but this one here should be read because my viewpoint is actually that one. I'm terribly sorry about that one. You can blame it on me. I did some edits. I did the same talk yesterday in Oxford, and I made some edits, and it seems that this one slipped. So my viewpoint here, this one, I disagree with this statement. Does anybody know why I disagree with that statement? Well, that's because a usability test report that reports 60 problems is unusable. Chances are that people are not going to read it. It's your job, inconvenient as it may be, to filter out, to extract the 20 to 25 most important findings and report them. Usability testing can be conducted by anyone. That's a simple statement. Yes, I was waiting to see if I blew this one too, but I didn't. Yes, I agree with that statement. The point is here, and that's actually the point that I want to make, anyone can sit down with the user, give them a few tasks, however ridiculous they may be, and listen or not listen, pay attention or not pay attention to what they're saying. But my answer becomes totally different when it says up here, quality usability testing can be conducted by anyone. And that's not what the statement says. And that's one of the reasons why I'm such a strong believer in certification. Because I believe that certification, not the least usability test certification, will make you just a little bit better at running good usability tests, because then you have seen, then at least you ought to know how it should be done right. One famous software guru, Gerald M. Weinberg, said it, if you don't care about quality, anything else is trivial. This is my final slide. You will see the statement in this case is slightly different. So please vote on this one. So this is where I take a deep breath and click the button. Yes. Thank you very much. My mission is accomplished. There's a little story to this one. Yesterday, some people said, well, this slide is wrong because I have forgotten what your name was, what my name was. So I put that on the slide here. Any questions? But wait, before you have any questions, I have a question for you. What's terribly wrong about that slide? Why is this slide a disaster? And why does it violate one of the basic credos that I gave you just at the start? Please.
It's not back to data. We might not have had our attention.
Okay, that's right. It is not. Okay, that's not. That's not what I'm after. No, this slide is unusable. And why is it unusable? No, the point is, how should a usable presentation end? With a picture of some nice seals on the German island of Helgoland, and with my email address and with my name? No way. No, it should end in a dull way with the takeaways, with the main messages that I've tried desperately to communicate to you during the past 45 minutes. This is my final slide. I have no more surprises for you. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll be very happy to take questions.
Thank you.